Alright boys and girls, before we get into today's video, I do just want to mention that we have channel membership now. So there will be new stuff coming as we go. Just a reminder to you guys that is an option if you want to support the channel. If you don't want to give money, a sub is always grateful, and a like. In today's video, we're going to discuss what we've learned after day one of PTS. So we got on there today, there's very few changes, so obviously this is very quick and easy. We are going to go over, we've learned a few things, and we're going to discuss that. So let's get into it, boys and girls. First up is the mythic that I was kind of, let's be honest, I couldn't believe ZeniMax would do something like this, and that was the medium chest. If you continuously sprint for 1 second, you gain the ability to pass through enemies. Enemies you pass through become charmed for 4 seconds, removing their ability to attack or cast abilities as they move toward you. Charming an enemy this way will store basically 700 stam and mag to you and heals you for 678. Charming an enemy removes you from stealth. Now, I thought this was completely and utterly stupid because, you know, someone stopping you from being able to use your abilities and stuff like that it's just a dumb mechanic. Luckily, this isn't the way it works at all. The tooltip is just extremely misleading, and basically it just fears. It's a CC like any other in the game. You can break it and then like move on. This opens up some possibilities. This could actually be a reasonably okay mythic, maybe. If you see in the background, we're doing some different tests with it, and one we went in Skyreach and just went through like heaps of mobs, and you can see the UI is very laggy on the PTS, so initially that's why it's not showing the stam restore. But as you can see, we're getting basically 700 back for each one we go through. So if you're going through quite like, you know, a Zerg, then you're going to get a lot of resources back, and also you're stunning. Now, obviously, this stun's really good on a defense situation, but I don't know how it would go in an offensive situation. I haven't had the ability to do and play around with it with an actual player yet, but we'll have to look into that. I think this mythic could be an option, maybe. We'll have to play around with it a little bit more. Now, I'll real quickly mention the one that gives you 300 magic and converts basically your stuff like dodge roll, block, and all that into magic abilities. This seems really cool, and maybe it will get some use, but I'm still struggling to see a point where I'd use it, because for me, like on my mag classes, I'm using my off stat pool for this. I think it's one thing with ice staffs to turn block into it, but you want your off stat to be used, and if you're converting all these things into magic, then I don't know. Like, I'm not saying it's useless and pointless, I'm just personally, I'm struggling to see a point to it. Obviously, if you did use this, you could stack everything into mag and not have to worry about stam at all, but you're giving up a mythic slot to do that. Also, when we're reading the patch notes, we said we had to test this, and that's the changes to Backlash. I'll read it out one more time for you guys. The final damage now deals a guaranteed amount of damage based on your offensive stats. The final damage approximately 10% more damage than the initial hit at base, and increases up to additional 200% to reach a similar values of the power seen before. I think this is misleading, but anyway, the final damage now takes overall more damage to reach to make the payout less reliably reached in PvP scenarios. This ability are now once again limited to having one active at a time, and then they increased the minor breach up to 10 seconds. Now, this isn't testing against a player, so it should have been a lot easier to reach the max stack multiplier, and it wasn't overly that easy. Then again, it wasn't that hard, but I don't know what they mean by similar values, because it looks like a 15% nerf. Now, I'm pretty sure we reached the full scaling here. It's just a little bit hard to kind of gauge where the full scaling is. We can look into this a little bit more later on, but it was a 15% nerf from what I could gather, all the way up to like a 70% nerf if on the low end of the scaling, like with barely any scaling. it's a 70% nerf. There's really no way to look at this, but it's a massive nerf. Obviously, there's going to be some scenarios where you're going to get the max scaling, and even if, say, you do reach the max scaling, and say best case scenario is like 5 or 10% difference, it's still a massive nerf. I was sitting around 8,000-ish spell damage in vamp form, with some damage multipliers, and the best I could get this was a 15% nerf from live, doing the exact same thing with the exact same gear on live. I don't know, let me know if you've seen other testing with this and it's kind of off, but from what I've gathered and seen in other discords, a lot of other people are finding this to be a massive nerf as well. Alright, let's move on. Finally, we will talk Balm. Now, I know the thumbnail, which is technically true, but the thumbnail is also technically true, because yes, they have nerfed the hot. You're not getting, multiple stacks of it in the same second, but you are getting a larger heal per second with one proc, which makes it easier and better in, smaller fight situations. But the big kicker is the burst heal has actually been buffed, because you're still getting like one stack or one heal for every purge that's removed, and now that heal is noticeably bigger, the burst heal is noticeably bigger. It's about 40% bigger. Balm is still perfectly fine. Is it broken OP now? Probably not broken OP, but it's still maybe OP. I'm still using it at this point. People forget about the whole purge side of it. This is basically Weird Tree and the set that gives you a burst heal, I forget the name of it, and Hissap all in one set. So it's still really strong, and anyone that tells you differently is smoking some really good shit. But yeah, that's kind of what we've learnt so far on the PTS. I know there's not a whole lot, and generally I say we'll do more testing and test other stuff. But there's really not a whole lot more to test. This is kind of the meat and potatoes of the changes. But if there is something you want to see changed, guys, let me know in the comment section, and we can definitely have a look at it. If you want to see this kind of stuff tested live, feel free to drop me a follow on Twitch. We tested this stuff live today on stream. But as always, boys and girls, I love yous, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.